When referencing the big ideas we've learned this semester, the teacher and the parent both have their unique opinions about their impact on students today.
Differentiated instruction is very helpful in the classroom to engage the students in more individual ways than more traditional manners, so to speak. I usually do with students a interest survey, and it goes along with the 7 ways of learning. Are you kinesthetic? Are you interpersonal, intrapersonal, all that kind of stuff. And then based on their scores of what they're highest and then lowest in, I base some of the different activities on throughout the year based on those scores.
Applied to different students with different learning abilities and allows for classes that are have different levels of students. My children are gifted, but they weren't exclusively in gifted classes. They were in regular classes and had other experiences, but differentiated instruction let them get things out of those classes.
I actually agree with Common Core, and I think there's a very good purpose. Common Core has created standards and expectations for teaching and learning that will help our students in our society that has become greatly globalized. A lot of people dislike Common Core because they want a more localized education, but with as much as folks are moving anymore, we need to make education open and available, fair to all students, that what they get in one state or in one school is similar to what they'll get in other schools.
My experience with my children, and they just graduated from high school this past year, but in their time, because the time they were in school was FCAT years, where really that became very big. And my feeling is that they learned a little bit about a lot of stuff. Like, it just wasn't very deep. They learned a lot of facts. They learned a lot, but they never learned they learned facts, not thinking. They didn't learn to dig deep. They didn't learn to analyze. They missed a lot of that stuff. And Common Core, as I understand it, they didn't get a lot of time with it because they graduated last year, but would train them to be better thinkers. So yeah, I think that they would have had more opportunity to learn to be more critical thinkers.
Common Core implementing it was going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight because honestly it's a new way of teaching and learning and really planning, and that's the big part, is it does take a lot of planning. But teachers just have to get familiar with the different standards, what's expected of them to be done in the classroom, and really what's expected of the students, because it does put a lot of the expectations on the students, and slowly implement it. Find a few things every year to focus on, because it's a gradual implementation. It's not going to happen overnight in one day. Flexibility, I just can't say it enough, because a lot of teachers say that their desks have to be in rows all the time, or they have to do it in groups. Well, you know what? Your class may start in rows and then go to groups, or vice versa. Just be flexible with it, whatever the students need, whatever is going to help them learn the best.
I think the classes that they described, that they were happy, says that they learned the most in, were the teachers that really managed the class by keeping the classes relevant and interesting and kept them constantly engaged, and so there was less issues. Those classes managed themselves. The content almost managed them. They also had some classes that were not managed well. The classes that they described, that they would tell me about classes where there was issues, behavior issues, they tended to be classes that kids weren't terribly interested in or engaged. For example, geometry. I mean, you can't make geometry all that interesting anyway, I don't think, and those were the classes that they would talk about having the biggest issues.
In high school, it's being real with the students, and that's why I honestly can't say I have a formalized classroom management system, but it's being honest with the students, having one-on-one conversations with them, and being very specific about what the behavior is you expect from them from the beginning. State it out. I always have a discussion about what respect is, and that's my only rule in my classroom, is to respect. If you're really, any behavior that's considered wrong is some sort of disrespect. And so if you're being disrespectful, you've broken my rules, and I can do anything from pulling a student aside and having a one-on-one conversation, or just a quick reprimand, hey, can you get back on task? If I need to call home. Rarely do I write a referral. If I need to, I will, but that's after having used other methods. Have I introduced you to this book, The First Days of Schools by Harry Wong? I really like Harry Wong because he makes it very real with people that it doesn't matter how many years you've been teaching. If you've been teaching 30 years, you only have 30 times of experiencing the first day, whereas a 5-year teacher's only got 5 times to experience the first day. Mm-hmm. And so we don't have a lot of, nobody has a lot of experience in the first day of school. But introduce yourself and get the kids the time to talk about themselves and get to know the students. If you don't take that time to get to know the students, you just jump straight into the content, they're not going to think you care. And really, if you don't show from the beginning you want to know about them, then you probably don't care. Mm-hmm. So I always start off, I have to do the boring stuff, the paperwork, mm-hmm. the syllabus, that kind of thing. But then I get into some icebreakers, and we get into our respect activity, and we get into the interest survey so that I can get to know them. Then we do some kind of team builders based on that kind of thing. And really, it only takes about 2 or 3 classes to do those things, mm-hmm. because they're so comfortable with each other at that point. And I know who they are and vice versa. We're good to move on and get moving with some activities.
You know, my children never had any teachers that I believe behaved unethically or mm-hmm. inappropriately, so it wasn't really a problem. You can read the news and see there are issues, and I guess for those parents that's a really big deal. Mm-hmm. But we were lucky to always have good teachers.
Code of ethics is obviously there for a reason, to hold expectations, hold people accountable for their actions. I don't take it lightly. I know some people do, just because they feel there are people out there who can protect them, or it's iffy. But this is not a joke. We're dealing with other people's lives in this career, and you got to respect them. You got to take it seriously and uphold the rules. I mean, we expect our students to follow our rules in our classroom. Mm-hmm. The same should be expected of us.
Through the interviews, I learned that these ideas are put into place to help teachers and parents build the perfect environment to prepare students for the future. So I leave you with the words painted on the walls of CHS. Today the classroom, tomorrow the world.